Welcome into the Clutch Team Podcast. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about Kirk Cousins. We're obviously going to talk about Derrick Henry. Had a big weekend. The Cowboys. And we've got the best and worst for you from the week. Let's talk about it. Week 7 action. Week 7 action. My name's Kyle. His name's Connor. Let's get right into things. We got first and goal. We're going to talk about Derrick Henry. Like I said, the guy had a fucking awesome weekend. Ran all over the Bills, guided them to a victory. He had 20 carries, 143 yards, 3 touchdowns. He single-handedly kept the Tennessee Titans in it. He is the Titans offense. Everything runs through him. And I never thought we'd see something like this again where an offense is based on the running back, but it's here, and he won that game for him. Connor, what is your thoughts on Derrick Henry?
He's doing exactly what every team didn't want him to do, other than the Titans. He is just absolutely massacring every defense, aside from week 1 in Arizona, right? Chandler Jones puts on a clinic. He gets less than 60 yards rushing. Since then, he's averaged 24 carries a game, 145 yards a game. And not only that, he has 18 targets passing this season for a probable catch. He's caught 16 of them, which, coming from a guy like Derrick Henry, who is not supposed to be a receiving back at all whatsoever, that's pretty good. He's also playing 71% of offensive snaps, which is 5th among NFL's starting running backs, which is also crazy considering the fact that dude abuses people on every single play that he's in. He's running out of his mind. It's very obvious that they don't need A.J. Brown or Julio on the field for them to win a game, because Derrick Henry can just stand back there 5 yards deep and do whatever he wants. And the Bills are a very good defense. I mean, we saw it last week against the Chiefs. They shut the Chiefs down. And obviously the Chiefs have no run game, so maybe they weren't prepped for that as much. But Derrick Henry doing what Derrick Henry does, I mean, he's right now, through 6 games, he's on pace for like 2,500 yards or something rushing. If he continues doing this, he's got 780 through 6 games, which is absolutely nuts in a 17-game season. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry and already has 10 touchdowns. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. If you're any defense looking at what Derrick Henry just did to the Bills, you're peeing your pants, being like, we have to go face him at some point in the season. And as we've seen, Derrick Henry doesn't slow down. He just keeps going. No matter how long the season is, no matter how many games he plays, he just keeps going. And, I mean, damn, good for him. Good for the Titans for figuring it out. That, hey, maybe we don't even worry about Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball. Let's just have Derrick Henry run it every play. And if that gets him wins, good for them. And, I mean, I can't say anything else because Derrick Henry speaks for himself. He's going to do what he does, and that's run over people.
So I am guilty of this. I think I said it on this podcast, actually, that Derrick Henry is an overrated running back. I have squatted on this take for so long. I think it's time to get off of it because this guy is so unreal. Like, he's a physical specimen. There's no other way to describe it. He's stronger than everybody. He's faster than everybody. He weighs more than everybody, but not in like a fat way, in a he's just built way. He can run the ball between the tackles and he can bounce it outside. As you said, he can catch. He's caught a lot better this year than he has in the past. And it makes me wonder what the hell the Titans were doing prior to 3 seasons ago. Derrick Henry's been in the league since 2014, I believe. 2014, 2015, somewhere in that range is when he came into the league. And it took until 2018 for us to see anything from him, 2019 for us to see anything from him. So what were the Titans doing? Splitting carries with Dion Lewis. I think this speaks more volumes to the NFL in general because I think that Derrick Henry is a special athlete, right? And I think right now, we're in an era of truly special athletes. And when you have a special athlete, he was proof of this on Monday night. You just hand it to him and say, get us the win. That's pretty much what they did on Monday night, is they gave it to Derrick Henry, said, guide us to victory. It's your team, your game, find a way. And he did it because he's just that good. He is a physical specimen. And like I said, the NFL is I really think a golden generation of just truly, truly special guys right now. I mean, you look at some of them, Derrick Henry, obviously, Lamar Jackson runs fast. Everybody is more elusive than everybody. Patrick Mahomes on just pure arm talent. Aaron Donald, his strength and quickness at defensive tackle. Have we ever seen a defensive tackle dominate the game the way Aaron Donald has? Kyler Murray has shown flashes of just extreme, extreme talent. Jalen Ramsey at the corner spot. We've never seen that combination of strength and speed at the corner position. I think it's a really good time in the NFL. We are in a golden generation, and it's something we have to appreciate because the NFL has had special athletes before. Deion Sanders comes to mind. Most athletic player maybe ever in the game. Deion Sanders, Calvin Johnson, the combination of size, speed, and strength at the receiver position. He was just the total package in one. Bo Jackson with his speed. These were guys that Bo Jackson to a lesser extent because he had the injury and he also played baseball. But these were guys that you could pretty much say, figure out how to get us a win. Obviously, on the defensive side of the ball with corner, Jalen Ramsey, Deion Sanders, it's a little tougher. But they could impact the game in a way where it was like, just get us the win. Deion's going to find a way. If we're struggling and we need some momentum change, Deion's going to find a way to get us an interception and get us the ball back, put us in position, maybe return it for 6. Jalen Ramsey, same way. Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes speak for themselves. I mean, they're just unbelievable. You're never out of the game when you have those two at quarterback. And I know the Chiefs have struggled and Patrick Mahomes hasn't been his best this year. Patrick Mahomes still leads the league in touchdown passes. He's still 3rd in the league in passing yards. And we're saying this is a down year for Patrick Mahomes. Aaron Donald speaks for himself, and obviously we have Derrick Henry. I mean, it's just the level of talent we have in the league right now is unmatched in any other generation of the league, any other era. I think that, like I said, we've had athletes before that are special, but never at this volume. I mean, I listed 6 guys. I could probably go on a list of like 10 more, of just truly special athletes. Aaron Rodgers wasn't even mentioned in that. You're never out of the game with Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson wasn't mentioned in that. And look how special he is. The Seahawks offense didn't look great with Geno Smith at quarterback. I'll tell you that. It's a great time, and Derrick Henry just leads the pack there. But I think the biggest question mark facing Derrick Henry, and the one thing that's kind of been avoiding him for a while, is he a legitimate MVP candidate? So, I mean, Connor, what do you think? Is he? What does he have to do to win MVP?
He has to keep this pace, right? He has to, through the next, the rest of the season. If he continues the pace he's on, right? So 6, 12, 18, right? Let's call it 18 games. If he keeps off his average through 18 games, he'll have 30 touchdowns, almost over 25, almost 2,500 yards rushing, 5 yards a carry, and he'll be at around 500 attempts rushing ish. If he does that, you cannot look at anyone else in the league. It's not possible. Say he ends up with 2,000 rushing yards, 22, 23 touchdowns, and keeps 5 yards a carry. Can you say no to giving him MVP at that point? I can't. Will it happen because it's the NFL and it'll end up going to a quarterback anyway? Yeah, probably. But at this point, I can't. I'm not giving it to Patrick Mahomes. I'm not giving it to Lamar. As good as Dak's played, I can't give it to him just because of Derrick Henry's pure dominance. And if he can keep it up through the rest of the season and ends up with the numbers that he could possibly end up with, you cannot go, oh, here's Offensive Player of the Year. That would be the biggest snub in NFL awards history. It would just be so unfathomable to not do it, because you can't look a guy dead in the face and be like, you are the most impactful player in the NFL. Even if the Titans don't end up winning a ton of games, you still, like, I wouldn't, as a NFL fan, be like, no, he doesn't deserve it. The Titans didn't make the playoffs, or they lost. Like, you can't do it. Will it happen? Probably. We know it probably will. Would my vote go to Derrick Henry? 100%.
I think, well, obviously they have to make the playoffs. I think that's just a given. I can't remember the last time a guy won MVP and didn't make the playoffs. Look, he's unique because he's the first running back I've seen since Adrian Peterson, that 2012 year where he actually won MVP. That the team is built through him. Everything is off of Derrick Henry. Play action, Ryan Tannehill is the best off play action in the league because Derrick Henry is standing behind him, and every linebacker in the league is going to take trying to tackle Derrick Henry over taking the chance that Ryan Tannehill throws it over the top of him. It's not even a debate. So I think his main competition for it is going to be Lamar Jackson because he's carrying his team as much as anybody has. Kyler Murray, if they can keep up their pace, which I kind of doubt because the Cardinals have done this before where they've looked really good and then sucked in the later half of the season. But he'll be in the mix. Those are his two biggest competition, I think, because like you said, Patrick Mahomes is not going to win it. Aaron Rodgers won it last year, so chances that he wins back-to-back are low. It takes a lot to win it back-to-back. He could put up the same numbers, and I don't think he'd get it. But like you said, it's the NFL, and the NFL is going to find a way to give it to a quarterback, which is why I'm saying those two are his main competition. I think Dak would be in the mix, but his team is so stacked on offense that there's a lot of reasons not to give him that, whereas Lamar Jackson is dealing with Marquise Brown. Every other game looks great, and every other game looks like a number 3 receiver. Mark Andrews is consistently great. We know what Mark Andrews brings to the table. But the way he's carrying that team, I would argue, is similar to how Derrick Henry's carrying his team. Because Derrick Henry is the Titans' offense. Derrick Henry leads the league in rushing yards by 250 or 150 yards, right? No, 250 yards. I was right the first time. All right. Ezekiel Elliott, we say, is having a comeback year, having a really good year, bounce back year. He looked washed, and now he looks really good. He's 260 yards away from Derrick Henry for league leader in rushing yards. He has 10 touchdowns, Derrick Henry. That's twice as many as the second place person. Also, Ezekiel Elliott tied with a bunch of other people. Sam Darnold, one of them, has 5 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. The guy's unreal. And in the end, it's going to be difficult to not give it to him. But like you said, it is the NFL. They'll find a way. And look, does he have my vote right now? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so just because of what Lamar is doing at the quarterback position, which I know it's unfair that we judge quarterbacks differently from every other position, but it's the leader of the team. I mean, and you could argue Derrick Henry is essentially the quarterback of his offense in a way because everything runs through him. I would say what Lamar is doing is slightly more impressive, but they're right there. They're neck and neck. And I think right now I'd give it to Lamar, but Derrick Henry's putting up as good a season as we've seen. Right now, if he were to continue this pace, he'd finish with 1,900 yards. I think he has to be north of 2,000 in order to win MVP. It's going to have to happen. Last season, he had 2,027 yards. That's 5th all time. And he was 80 yards away from Eric Dickerson's record. There's an extra game this year. So there's a chance for him to do that. And it's not out of the question because we've seen it before. Derrick Henry just gets better as the season goes on. I mean, he gets better as the game goes on. I think there was a graphic on Monday Night Football that he averages like 3.5 yards per carry in the first quarter and then like 7 yards per carry in the fourth quarter. Like doubles his average in the fourth quarter. This guy... It's so weird. He just churns him out, and he gets better the more tired he gets. Because you know what? He might be tired, but you know who else is tired? That corner that's trying to tackle him 4 plays a game. He doesn't want to be there. You think the 180-pound, 5'10" corner wants to tackle 230, 6'3" Derrick Henry? Not a chance. No, he doesn't want to wind up like Josh Norman. He doesn't want to wind up on a highlight reel. I mean, we saw, was it Jordan Poyer that tried to make the tackle as a safety on the Bills in that game? Derrick Henry broke through.
But
it was either Poyer or Micah Hyde. It was one of those two, and he just got freight trained, but he brought him down, and everybody online was like, "Imagine getting steamrolled like this." And a former NFL player, I think it was Emmanuel Acho, came out and said, "If you're a safety and you have to tackle Derrick Henry, and this is the result, you'd take that 10 times out of 10 because you got him to the ground.
100%.
You got him to the ground."
If I'm Jordan Poyer or Micah Hyde in that situation, and I tackle Derrick Henry, and he doesn't score a touchdown, I'm giving myself player of the game, dude. And you know what I mean? Like, you once Derrick Henry is in your secondary, you're just hoping that one of your guys trips him, grabs a shoelace, slows him down, does anything he possibly could to stop him. Because once he's past your linebackers, what are you gonna do?
And you're gonna hope that he. Yeah, for his size, he's so fast.
That run he had, can't remember what it was. It was between the tackles. He bounces off a linebacker and then literally blows past everybody. And not only blows past them, is about 10 yards ahead of everyone. 20 yards past the line of scrimmage. And it's just, I mean, once your lineman and once your front seven gets tired and it's Derrick Henry and it's deep in the third, fourth, good luck. Have fun. See what you can do, because you're not going to have a good time.
Yeah, you might corral him the first 10 carries he has, but the next 20 are going to be hell for you. You're not gonna enjoy it. And like I said, his pass catching has made an improvement. So now he can be on the field every down. He's an every down back at this point. Before he was one of those guys you took off on second down and brought in your scat back. He's a legitimate threat on third down. And look, he's incredible. He speaks for himself. He is a man amongst boys. It's crazy. That Bills defense is solid. I went into that game thinking the Bills are so much more talented than the Titans. The Titans lost to the freaking Jets 2 weeks ago. They're so much more talented. They should win this game with ease. But here comes that man, Derrick Henry, just mowing down defenders on his way to, like I said, 140-something yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, you could have put any quarterback back there for the Titans at that point. Just have him hand it off. Get out of this man's way, But yeah, I think he speaks for himself. I think we beat that to death. Derrick Henry is unreal. All right, let's move on. We got second and goal. I hate talking about him because I feel like every time it's something not good, it's such a shame because they're having a good season. We got the Cowboys. They won against the Patriots. It was a lot closer than I think a lot of people expected. Mac Jones played decent. I'll give him credit. Mac Jones played decent. But the key to the Cowboys keeping the Patriots in that game was Mike McCarthy just made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. It was the most poorly coached game I've ever seen in my life. And when you watch that Cowboys team, they don't look well coached. 11 penalties. 11 penalties. I mean, as we're speaking, they probably got one more. That's how the Cowboys have the talent, but is Mike McCarthy going to hold them back? Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, listening to a lot of people talk, it's Mike McCarthy, I think, went into such a funk after getting kicked out of Green Bay because of the situation with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he was very adamant that Aaron Rodgers could not stand Mike McCarthy for a long time in Green Bay. And Mike McCarthy just never changed, right? There was never any updating of the Packers offense. There was never any changes there. And yeah, they won, but I think most of that was because of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's hard to lose when you have this guy, but never that he changed. And then he goes to Dallas, and Jerry Jones is kind of notorious for keeping things around too long, especially at coaching. Like, right, we have Mr. Claps there for way longer than he should have been. And I mean, I know we both agree on that one, but he didn't change either, right? The Cowboys probably have the most high-powered offense in the NFL right now, easily. Between receiving core, Pollard, Zeke, that offensive line looks solid now. There's no reason they shouldn't be scoring 40 points a game on anybody, no matter how good the defense is. That offense has the power to rival what the Chiefs were doing, if not do it better, because they have threats that can do everything. Mike McCarthy is just so Stone Age in his ideas on offensive coaching that it holds them back. And he doesn't help at all on the defense. I mean, let's be honest here. If you're a Cowboys fan at this point, I don't know how you feel about this. I want Kellen Moore as my head coach. Yeah, maybe he doesn't know a ton about defense, but he can get that offense whirring enough that it would just go. And I think a lot more people respect Moore down there in Dallas than respect Mike McCarthy, because he just doesn't do anything. Mike McCarthy isn't the kind of guy who's going to step up and be like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how we're going to get a win. He's just not that guy. And he wasn't that guy in Green Bay either. Yeah, he gets a Super Bowl, but that was on the shoulders of prime Aaron Rodgers, where he could literally do anything and it'd probably end up in a positive play or a touchdown. I think Mike McCarthy is just, like I said, so Stone Age that he's not adapting. He's not doing what older guys in the league, like, you know, Bill Belichick has kind of fallen off in his adaptation kind of stuff. But Andy Reid, these guys who are older and adapting, Mike McCarthy isn't even close to as old as those guys, and he just isn't adapting at all. And I think that's what's holding the Cowboys back the most is just complete incompetence at trying to do anything new.
Yeah, so this topic was inspired by recently on Colin Cowherd's, not his normal podcast, but his Volume Sports podcast. He had Nick Wright on. Nick Wright brought on that idea that the Cowboys should fire Mike McCarthy mid-season and promote Kellen Moore as soon as possible. Hasn't really been seen done before, right? In the NFL, I can't think of a time where a team was 5-1 and they fire their coach because they don't think he's good enough. I don't think that's ever happened. But it's true. I think there's a legitimate case to be made for it. I don't know what Mike McCarthy brings to the table that Kellen Moore doesn't, because Kellen Moore calls the plays. So the offense runs through him. Mike McCarthy is not a defensive coach. That's Dan Quinn. So there's his job. The Cowboys have one of the best special teams coordinators in the league. So he's controlling that. So I wonder what Mike McCarthy does besides call the timeouts and throw the challenges and make the decisions on whether or not to go for it. And 2 out of those 3 things he's really, really bad at. Mike McCarthy is the worst clock management coach in the league, and that includes Andy Reid. And Andy Reid is pretty bad. Andy Reid's pretty terrible. Mike McCarthy is the worst clock management coach. He calls timeouts when he shouldn't. He doesn't call timeouts when he should. He grants timeouts to the other team like he did this past weekend. I mean, it's unreal. It's every week with him. And it's not something that happens like, oh, it happened one time, so we're going to let it slide. No, it's happened at least 4 times, 4 or 5, maybe 6 times this season where he's completely botched the clock situation. We're in week 7. His late game decisions on whether to go for it, there was right before the Trayvon Diggs interception, I believe is when it was. They had a chance. It was 4th and 1, and it was either line up for a 52-yard field goal or something like that, or go for it. And this guy kicked the 52-yard field goal in the 4th quarter instead of going for it on 4th and 1 when you have a running back that's having a resurgent year. You have a quarterback that's always going to make the right play. You have 3 receivers really, because Cedric Wilson is a legit guy. He's a legit receiver. 3 receivers that can get open. Oh, and by the way, Zeke doesn't fit your taste. It's all right. You got Tony Pollard, who's quicker than everybody else on the defense. So he can bounce it to the outside and get there too. You have a quarterback that he did score on a sneak earlier in the game and they didn't call it, but he's clearly able to get that yard if you need it. And this guy decides to kick the field goal, and they missed. And Greg Zuerlein, it would be different if you had Justin Tucker at kicker and you're like, this guy's money, it's guaranteed points, just kick it, it's going in. Greg Zuerlein has not been exactly money. He's a good kicker, don't get me wrong, but he's no guaranteed 3. He's no guaranteed 3. He consistently makes the wrong decisions all the time. All the time. And so I really don't know what he benefits to this team. To put in perspective, this past Sunday against the Patriots, the Cowboys outgained the Patriots in total yards by 230 yards. They were 2 of 4 on 4th down. Patriots didn't go for it. I'm pretty sure they dominated time of possession by 13 minutes, and I believe they had more plays in the Patriots' red zone than the Patriots had plays at one point. And at the end of the first half, they were down 14-10. Like, how does that happen? 11 penalties is how it happens. Consistently making the wrong decision is how it happens. Did the Cowboys get a bad break on the Dak quarterback sneak? Yeah, they did. But that stuff happens. It happens. And you had more opportunities to put the game away early. By the end of the first quarter, the Cowboys should have been up 21-14. And the Patriots offense was playing well. Mac Jones was playing well. And they should have been up 21-14. The Cowboys consistently shot themselves in the foot this whole game and still eked out a win. You know why? Because they're talented. The Cowboys have undeniable talent. That offense is potent. Trayvon Diggs just got his 8th interception in 7 games, I believe is what it was, right? Like he's had an interception every game. He had 2 that other game. So he now has 8 interceptions in 7 games. You know, the defense starts making plays because that defense, they have their moments where they're not great. We saw it on the touchdown pass to Kendrick Bourne, which Devonta KZ, what are you doing on that? They'll have their lapses, but they're a talented group. They'll figure it out. They can be a bend but don't break defense. I just don't know what Mike McCarthy brings to the table. I really don't. Kellen Moore, it's so tough to say that they should fire him because you don't know how Kellen Moore is going to act as a head coach, because head coach is different from offensive coordinator. You've got more responsibilities within the team. You have to have your eye on everything. But with the job that Mike McCarthy, and normally in any other situation, I'd be like, no, it's a little ridiculous. You know, you don't know how the guy's going to fare at head coach. But the truth is, Kellen Moore can't be any worse than Mike McCarthy has been. As far as like decision making goes, this guy's the worst. What was it a couple weeks ago where they put the team to 4th down with like a minute and a half remaining in the second half. Or in the first half, and they didn't call a timeout to try and score one more time. They let the clock run down to like 30 seconds, took a knee, and went to half. Like, what is this guy doing? What is he doing? You know what? Every time that we talk about the Cowboys, and this is on me because I make the topics for the show, so apparently I like to hurt myself. But every time we talk about the Cowboys on the show, I feel like it's in a negative light. They're 5-1 right now. They're 5-1. I should be happy. But we just played a game against a Patriots team that fought their asses off, but they're not nearly as talented. I mean, that should have been a blowout, But it just shows the coaching gap. Belichick is an awesome coach. He is an exceptional coach. He'll never lose his job. The Patriots could go 0-16 for 2 seasons straight, and I think he'd still keep his job. That coaching gap between Mike McCarthy and Belichick. Belichick's here. Mike McCarthy's like that. He's not even on the screen. All right, he's so far down. There's a reason this guy was fired from the Packers, and the only reason that he got a job at the Cowboys is because he said he had adapted and changed. And guess what? He hasn't adapted or changed. He's changed nothing. It's so hot and cold with him. Do you think they have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl with him at head coach?
I think they do, just because how talented they are. I think Mike McCarthy does put them in situations that they shouldn't be in, like being that close to the Patriots. I mean, huge Patriots fan. That game should have been a blowout, like you said. Should not have been close. Yeah, that Pats defense is pretty good, but not good enough to hold the Cowboys and make them have to win in overtime. That's just not like that shouldn't have happened. I think they can do it with Mike McCarthy at head coach because they're talented enough to do it. But I think he's going to put them in game situations that they shouldn't be in that could cost them crucial wins. And I think that's the biggest issue. They have the talent to do it. Mike McCarthy's coaching decisions could jeopardize it.
Yeah, I share the same opinion. I think that's going to come back to hurt him in a big way later on. His coaching decisions. Right now, they haven't hurt us because kind of played inferior opponents. Haven't really been outside of the Bucks and the Chargers. They're actually a really good team. But we've played relatively inferior opponents: the Eagles, the Patriots, the Panthers. So those decisions haven't come back to bite us. When you're playing in the NFC Championship game against Tom Brady and the Bucks, guess what? You can't make those mistakes because Tom Brady is not going to make mistakes. Bruce Arians, he's a veteran head coach. I know that people are hot and cold on Bruce Arians, but he's not making those mistakes. He might screw up time management a little bit, but
yeah, but plus you have Tom Brady on the field, and if Tom Brady isn't like what Bruce Arians is doing, he's just going to make those decisions by himself anyway. So you kind of negate Bruce Arians in those situations. So
Aaron Rodgers isn't making those mistakes. Aaron Rodgers is one of the most intelligent players in the league. No chance is he making a mistake like that. These are teams that you're going to have to face. If you make it to the Super Bowl, oh my God, would the heavens rain down for me? But if you're against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in the Super Bowl, John Harbaugh is not making that mistake. Lamar Jackson's not making those mistakes. If you're against the Chargers, what's his name? Brandon Staley's a smart guy. He's not making those mistakes. These are good teams. Don't make that level of mistakes. And right now, the Cowboys are so mistake prone. Not even from their players, from their coach. That's not good. That's not good. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say on that? No. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's get to 3rd and goal. We got the Vikings. Not the team I think any of you expected us to talk about today, but they're in a weird spot because I believe they're 3-3 right now. So they're 500. They just came off a win against the Panthers, who are, they've had their ups and downs this season. The Panthers are a good team. They beat the Panthers in overtime. Kirk Cousins, 33 of 48, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns. Connor, what do you make of the Vikings? What do you make of Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins is always going to be Kirk Cousins. He's not flashy. He's not big play. He's the definition of just a clock management field general quarterback. Dalvin Cook obviously is, the big statement piece of that team when he's healthy. He's been in and out this year. They're solid. They're in the NFC North, which we know has been very weird this year. They're decent enough to do well in the NFC North. I would have said, hey, maybe the Vikings have something if I hadn't looked at their next 5 opponents. I'm like, hey, maybe they do something here. And then I looked at their schedule, their next 5 games in order, or at least what I found: Cowboys, Ravens, Chargers, Packers, Niners. I have a tough time saying they win any of those games at all. I can't see him doing it. I don't think this ends well for the Vikings. Other games that they play, they get the Packers 2 more times. They haven't played the Packers yet. They play the Rams and they play the Bears twice later in the season. And the Bears don't look completely awful. And especially when your offense
Bears defense
runs around. Yeah, especially your offense runs around Dalvin Cook, and then you kind of throw Thielen, Jefferson, and a few other guys in there. The Bears' defense is built to stop the run. Yeah, Justin Jefferson can hurt you a little bit, but if they shut down Dalvin Cook is not Derrick Henry at all by any means. He's a great running back, but he's not going to brutalize you for an entire game. He can make some runs. He's going to tire you out, but that Bears defense is built to stop the run in the front. I would have been like, hey, like I said, Vikings would have had something if I hadn't looked at their schedule. Because with that schedule coming up, if they eke out a win against the Niners, I'd be surprised. I think they probably lose their next 5 straight, and then we're looking at a team with 3 wins instead of maybe 6 or 7 wins. So, yeah, they're a solid team in the NFC North, but when you go out of division for your next 3 games, the next 4 out of your next 5 games are not in your division, and your one in-division game is against the best team in your division. You're probably not going to do super hot.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings have another thing going against them. They have 4 primetime games coming up. Cowboys in Week 8 is a Sunday night game. Let's see. I just had it. The Steelers in Week 14 is a Thursday night game. The Bears in Week 15 is a Monday night game. And the Packers, the second time around, is a Sunday night game. So
we all know what Kirk Cousins does in primetime games.
Exactly. We know how he is. The Vikings are talented, and I think they're well coached. I think Mike Zimmer is a good coach. They've got Dalvin Cook, like you said. They've got Justin Jefferson, legit receiver. Adam Thielen. I mean, we all know what he does. What he brings to the table. I think their tight end Irv Smith is pretty good. I think their defense, not great. Also, isn't the worst defense. They're kind of middling, I think. Yeah. So the issue the Vikings have is Kirk Cousins. I can't name a quarterback in the league more overpaid than Kirk Cousins. I think he ranks, if you give me a second, I think he ranks top 8 in the league as far as pay goes. And he's not worth that. I watched the Vikings-Panthers game, and there is nothing but checkdowns and little dump-offs to receivers. This guy does not take chances. And it's great that he's safe, but you know who else is safe? Alex Smith. And he lost his job to Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he gets enough credit. Yeah, he's number 8 as far as pay goes. He's got $33 million. I stand corrected. The most overpaid quarterback in the league is Jared Goff, who's number 7. So there you go. There's the list, 1 and 2. He infuriates me because there are times where Kirk Cousins plays, and you're like, oh, Kirk Cousins, look at him. And I think he's capable of throwing the deep ball. I think he's capable of throwing it 20-plus yards downfield. He just doesn't do it. The guy is so safe with the football. It's like he's constantly playing for his job. Who is the Vikings' backup? Who's scaring him so much that he's playing for his job right now? I mean, I know they're not going to extend him, but guess what, buddy? Whether you throw the 40-yard interception or the 4-yard check down, you're not keeping your job either way. They're going to move off of you. I think this is his last year under contract. He's just so frustrating because it's just dump off. If it's not there, he gets panicky, dumps it off, gives it to Dalvin Cook, let him do something. Remember when I was talking about Baker a couple weeks ago and Joe Burrow, and I said that you just give it to your playmakers and let them make plays. That's what their jobs are. Baker's job is to just get it to Jarvis Landry, get it to Odell Beckham, get it to Chubb, Hunt, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, get it to those guys, let them make plays. I would rather have Baker Mayfield right now, who, on a side note, the hate is overblown on Baker Mayfield. But I would rather have Baker Mayfield right now than Kirk Cousins. Because is Kirk Cousins probably the safer bet? Yeah. And is Kirk Cousins going to throw a lot of picks? No. Kirk Cousins is going to maintain a lot of safety with the football. He's not going to turn it over a ton. But do you know how many times in that game it was 3rd and 18 and he dropped it off to the 4-yard out route? Do you know how frustrating that is to watch as a fan? Do you know how frustrating that is to teammates? And there were images of like Justin Jefferson getting irritated because he's open. Like he's open 15 yards down the field and he's not getting the ball because a defender flashed by his face and Kirk doesn't have the confidence to beat one guy with his throw. So,
oh, trust me, it hurts my fantasy team too.
Yeah,
seeing that
Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow and Derek Carr and all these guys in that same mold of like game manager. They're just there to make sure that they get the ball out to the real playmakers on the team. All these guys take chances with the football. Baker Mayfield makes some stupid plays. But you know what? He's also trying to make something happen. And yeah, he's got to tone it down a little bit. He's got a bit of a fumbling problem. He can't hold on to the ball as soon as he rolls outside the pocket. But he's trying to make something happen, you know, and you got to applaud him for that. I'd rather have that than a guy that's going to just throw it out of bounds, you know, because the first route he saw wasn't there. The guy that's going to just dump it off to the running back every single play. No, it could be 3rd and 63 yards, and it's going to be a 2-yard dump off to Dalvin Cook. It's just so frustrating. Take some chances. Get the ball out. You have guys. Justin Jefferson can win a contested catch. Adam Thielen can win a contested catch. It's not like you have no talent at receiver, so if you throw it in tight windows, they're not going to get it. They have talent. And this game shouldn't have gone to overtime. The Panthers had some real issues with drops this game. I know Sam Darnold didn't play his best, but the receivers did not help him out at all. I mean, how many drops did DJ Moore have in that game? Had to be at least 3 or 4. Like, the guys couldn't catch Robbie Anderson had two drops at least. You know? So they shouldn't have won that game. It shouldn't have even gone to overtime. But this is the situation the Vikings find themselves in. This is what happens when you give a guy that didn't deserve it a 3-year, $30 million contract. And I know I'm talking big as if like, oh, well, who does deserve it? Like, who's better than Kirk Cousins out there right now that would be available? Look, I don't know. But if you keep Kirk Cousins on your team for that salary, you're just going to be running in place for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Because that's just what happens. That's just what happens. He's too safe, and it's so frustrating and so irritating to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not. I don't think anyone's ever looked at Kirk Cousins, even when he was in Washington, and been like, "This guy's gonna get us somewhere." Right? Like he's always been like that. He was always Alex Smith 2.0. Every step of his career. That's what happened. It's been safe, it's been checkdowns, it's been, you know, oh, I'm gonna get us down there, but you know, if I have to take a shot, you know, I'm probably not gonna do it. And it worked incredibly well when you had, you know, Kyle Rudolph and, you know, Diggs and all these guys who were like, were fine with taking these, you know, 10-yard ins, 10-yard outs, quick slants, like all this other stuff. But you have Justin Jefferson, who's a legitimate deep threat wide receiver, who's going to win pretty much every contested ball you throw up to him. And he's just standing there 10, 15, 20 yards down the field wide open because he's faster than everyone else and his routes are better than most corners can cover. And Kirk Cousins is just that guy who's like, yeah, well, you're there, but you know what? Dalvin Cook's wide open 3 yards down the field, and if Dalvin Cook ends up getting me 7 or 8, I'll take that on 3rd down, and hopefully I'm within 6 yards of the markers. So the Vikings aren't competing for anything, so it's not like there's a huge pressure to get rid of Kirk Cousins. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you get more talent on this team, which offensively is pretty talented and defensively isn't awful, at least try and compete for the top of the North with the Packers, get someone else in there, and be like, hey, let's make a run for the NFC North. You're probably not playing for a deep playoff push yet, but if you get a quarterback that is willing to take some risks, at least maybe you can knock off the Packers a couple times in the next few years, right? I mean, that'd be the biggest thing for me if I'm Mike Zimmer. So why not? Why not give it a shot, right? That NFC North is only getting better. I get it. The Lions are the Lions. The Bears with Justin Fields don't look terrible. Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So why not at least give it a shot? The only problem is they always finish middle of the pack, never have a quarterback-worthy draft pick that's in the first round. So you kind of have to wait and see. And unfortunately, there's no one coming out of college in the next season and a half, 2 seasons. That's, anyone the Vikings might want to go get. But who knows? I mean, Kirk Cousins isn't the guy that's going to get you anywhere. He's also not the guy who's going to get you at the bottom of the NFL. So it's kind of, where does Mike Zimmer and the Vikings organization want to be for the next 3 years?
Yeah, so I just checked it out, and the Kirk Cousins currently averages 7.4 yards per attempt. Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, all three we would consider game managers, kind of just give it to their guys. All north of 8 yards per attempt. I think the lowest is Baker Mayfield at 8.4. So that's a full yard more than Kirk Cousins. He does nothing but drop it down. And like you said, the Vikings are gonna run in place mainly because they never have a good draft pick. Never. This past year, it looks like they were due to have the 14th pick and traded it to the New York Jets, who ended up getting Elijah Vera Tucker. Very next pick was Mac Jones. Mac Jones is averaging 7 yards per attempt right now, which I know is lower than Kirk Cousins. He's also a rookie on a pretty not talented offense. The offense doesn't have any guys that'll, beat you deep. Who is the Vikings drafted a backup quarterback? Was it Jacob? Do they have Jacob Eason, or is that
Eason? Yeah.
Or is that the Colts?
No,
I think he might be on the Colts. Double check that. Sean Mannion is their backup QB. So maybe I got that one wrong. Let's see. I thought they drafted a guy. Jacob Eason is on the Colts. No. He's on the Seahawks. What? I thought he was on the Colts. He was drafted by the Colts in the 4th round. But yeah, it's maddening to watch because it's the same thing every time. And you're never going to get more with Kirk Cousins. And if the Vikings are satisfied with finishing in that middle ground, maybe they scrape into the playoffs. That's fine. But like you said, I mean, you look at their next couple matchups, and they're always going to have the worst quarterback. Like the Cowboys, you'd rather have Dak. The Ravens, I mean, it's no-brainer you'd rather have Lamar. Chargers, no-brainer you'd rather have Justin Herbert. Packers, Rodgers, I mean, come on. 49ers, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo has been to a Super Bowl. He's been to a Super Bowl. And that has to speak for something, so I'd rather probably have Jimmy. Jared Goff, the 2 most overpaid quarterbacks in the league. The Steelers with Big Ben, there was a time where it was a no-brainer. Big Ben now, he's not great. He's not mobile. Bears, I'd rather have Justin Fields for the future. Rams, Matt Stafford, not even close. And then Packers and Bears again. So you're always outmatched at the quarterback position. We look at their past couple games. The Bengals, week 1, I'd rather have Burrow. The Cardinals, week 2, I'd rather have Kyler. Seahawks, week 3, I'd rather have Russell Wilson. Browns, week 4, I'd rather have Baker. Panthers, week 6, I'd rather have Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold looks good, yeah.
So that means that there are 1, 2 teams, maybe the Niners, so maybe 3, that you'll have the better quarterback against across a 17-game season. What do you want to do, Vikings? Do you want to just run in place, or do you want to move forward for something? All right, I think we've done our best to kick the shit out of Kirk Cousins here. Let's move on. 4th and goal. As we do every week, we've got the best and the worst. Connor, would you like to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first this time. Starting with I mean, we've already talked about what my best is, which is Derrick Henry against the Bills. I mean, that's kind of just, we already talked about it, so that's my best. I mean, it's hard for me to pick anything else that happened this week. But Derrick Henry versus the Bills, absolutely steamrolling that entire defense, making it look easy. Very reminiscent of him against, Auburn in college. It was fun to watch. It was great to see a running back absolutely take over a game and beat a very good team. Do I like the Bills a lot? Yeah. Was it fun to watch Derrick Henry absolutely run over everybody? Yeah, a little more than me liking the Bills. So, that's my best.
Right. I figured that'd be your best, and that's really my best too, but I decided to go with something else. I'm going to go with my best being the Raiders, because this was a prime time game for them to just quit on the season. Head coach just, quit, resigned, fired, whatever you want to call it. All the stuff that's been circulating around them this whole week. They got that interim head coach, his first time as a head coach in the league, cries at the interview because he's just, the opportunity that he's been given. And they come out and they beat the Broncos, who I know are a little bit fraudulent. Their defense is really good, and their offense isn't so good. They put up 34 points against that defense. Vic Fangio is a legit defensive coordinator. I know he's the head coach, but he's a legit defensive mind. That defense is really talented, and they put up 34 points and won the game. So, props to the Raiders. This was a prime game for them to just, be like, all right, season's washed. And they won, and now they're 4-2 on the season, I think, right now, right? Or 4-2, 4-3, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, props to the Raiders. All right, do you want my worst first or your worst?
Let's do your worst first.
Okay, so my worst is the Browns, because they got absolutely demolished by the Cardinals. At one point, the game was close. Was not close at the end. I think they lost by 20 or 23 or something like that. They're beat up. They lost Kareem Hunt in that game. Nick Chubb was out already for that game. Kareem Hunt looks like he's going to be out for 3 weeks. Jarvis Landry's not healthy. Tristan Wirfs isn't healthy. Baker Mayfield's got a dislocated shoulder. He's not playing Thursday night. So the Browns are all sorts of beat up, and not a great time for them either, because they're starting to get to a crucial point in their schedule where the Ravens are playing really, really well and don't look like they're going to lose many games going forward as long as Lamar keeps carrying them. They're 3-3 at the moment, and their next couple games are the Broncos on Thursday night, who they're beat up, so I wouldn't be surprised if they lose that game. They've got the Steelers, who I know the Steelers are kind of struggling this year, but the Steelers and the Browns, it's a game that the Steelers get up for. So the Bengals, who are a talented team, the Patriots, who we saw could beat anybody, Lions and Ravens are their next 6 games going forward. And the Ravens, hopefully they're healthy by that point, but kind of a crucial point in the schedule here for the Browns to keep up with the Ravens and the Bengals, for that matter, who are playing out of their minds. So that it's not a great time to be a Browns fan, despite the hype before the season.
No. They're in trouble, and I don't think it gets better for the Browns, unfortunately. When your rushing attack is not there, and that's your entire offense, essentially, you're not going to do well. And I think that's going to beat them up badly.
When half your offense is injured, that's probably not a good thing. Yeah. But hey, OBJ's back. So there you go, Browns fans.
Great. My worst, 2 things. One, I actually just learned about an hour before the show started. First one is the Chargers getting absolutely mauled by the Ravens. That's just not a good showing for the Chargers. They're a much better team than putting up 6 points. I know that the Ravens defense is really good, but they needed to do better than 6 points and getting blown out. Worst of the worst, if it actually happens, is comes out today that the Texans are all in and moving Deshaun Watson to the Dolphins before the trade deadline.
I saw this.
So, one, Dolphins, I get it, you're rebuilding. You're losing Jalen Waddle to the Texans if you trade for Deshaun Watson. Sorry. It's going to happen. You're going to take everything you just built with and you're going to send it to Houston for Deshaun Watson, who will not suit up for you. Won't do it. There's no way. With all the stuff he's accused of, he's nowhere near playing, even if he was going to suit up for the Texans anyway with all the legal stuff. And it sounds like the Dolphins, who obviously I've never bought into Tua. He hasn't played like a quarterback. He's thrown for decent amount of yardage, but he doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. You can't do that. You either you stick with Tua and lose games before you trade your entire future away for Deshaun Watson, because even if Deshaun Watson isn't playing, the Texans are still going to want a bunch for him. What are you thinking? And this sounds like it's going to happen. This isn't like it was in the preseason and earlier this year where it's like, oh, the Houstons don't want to do it, but the Dolphins, really want it. Now it's both sides are like, yeah, you guys want to give up an entire generation's worth of picks? That's fine with us. Here you go. Take this and do whatever you want with it. It's like, why? What is Miami doing? Why would you ever consider doing this? That is, if it happens, going to be the worst of the worst thing. That, one, congrats on Houston on pulling it off. They do. But two, the worst decision the Dolphins could possibly make.
We've said it before on the podcast. I don't understand the idea of giving up, like you said, an entire generation's worth of picks, like so much for a guy that might not suit up for any NFL team ever again. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is the sex offender registry a little lighter in Florida? Is that what's going on? Because, I mean, if he's guilty of what he's being accused of, he's never suiting up again. So you're going to take that risk of this guy might never play for us. And we're going to give up everything we've built. Like you said, Jalen Waddle is probably going to have to be part of that deal. Probably. You're going to lose Tua, who I know we all have mixed opinions on, but who knows? He's only, and I don't even know if he has 16 NFL starts to his name. All for, and then picks that you could use if you don't think Tua is the guy to draft someone else. This Dolphins team, they're not in the same situation as like, trying to think of a team that was in a similar situation. The Packers, where their core was kind of older, so you couldn't draft someone. You needed someone ready-made.
Yeah. It was like Donald Driver, young Randall Cobb, like that kind of, Aaron.
Right. So situation. They got lucky because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, but if Aaron Rodgers didn't work out, they were going to have to look for something else. The Steelers are kind of no, because they've even gotten younger, but
yeah,
they're a young team. The Dolphins is my point. So if you need to draft another quarterback, you're not losing much time because all these guys are young. I mean, sure, you could say contracts are going to start coming up, but I mean, you're paying anything Jalen Waddle wants. He's a legit guy. Jalen Waddle is really good.
Yeah.
You can afford to let Devontae Parker go. All right. He's
not really losing a ton there.
Right. So it's a young team. They're not on the precipice of something of like falling off. They're just getting started. So if they don't like Tua, they can move on to someone else. And you're going to trade everything away for a guy that won't suit up for. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. How can if this doesn't work, that GM is never getting a job in the NFL again. Brian Flores, never getting a job in the NFL again. If Deshaun Watson never suits up for them.
No, and the biggest thing is, like, we all know Brian Flores is he's a defensive head coach, right? So, like, how much of is Brian Flores being like, why are we doing this? And how much of this is, the Dolphins front office being like, yeah, we can win right now? Because let's be honest, as good as Deshaun Watson is, and he's not making that team better with what they're going to lose getting Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's the biggest thing. It's like, we got Deshaun. We don't have anyone for him to throw to. We don't have anyone for him to hand the ball off to. We have nothing for him to do. He's going to look good standing there in those
we don't have blockers for him.
But
yeah,
there's
the ankle bracelet he's going to have to wear will fit right in.
Yeah, well, with the rest of the stadium, because everyone else in there's probably got one too. But
insult the entire city of Miami at that point.
but I mean, it's really the whole state of Florida, if we're being honest. But yeah, what is the thought? Why? It was like when the Bears were willing to give up all those picks for Russell. We were all like, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? The Bears are set up. They just need a quarterback.
The Bears are the Bears are a great example of that team where their defense is championship ready now, and they're not going to be championship ready in 5 years.
So that's the thing, right? Like no one questioned Russell Wilson going to Chicago. Every NFL fan outside of Seattle wanted it.
Well,
they're like, oh my, what? Yes, do it.
And you can't find Russell Wilson's face on a sex offender registry. Like,
exactly.
He's never going to wind up on there.
No, but now it's like, let's trade for a guy. Which, like, it sounds like this is a done deal at this point. Like, it's going to happen.
Oh, I thought you were talking about his situation, which sounds bad.
No, but same thing. Which also sounds like it's pretty much he will probably go away. Like, he might be in, an orange jumpsuit at some point in the next year. It will go down if Deshaun Watson does not play for Miami, will go down as the worst decision made by any franchise in NFL history. And it won't be close. Like, I get there's been a few but giving up what's probably going to end up being like 4 or 5 first round picks, some players and some other stuff. Good luck, Dolphins fans, because I feel bad for you.
Yeah. All right. That was a good worst. I like that. I did see that and I completely forgot about it actually. All right. We've reached the end of the show, which means it's time for Connor to either go for 2 or kick the extra point. If he goes for 2, he gets a trivia question. If he kicks the extra point, he just makes a prediction on the week. Connor lost his prediction last week, which means he's still stuck at 1 win on the year for that. I don't think he's gotten a trivia question right yet. His prediction last week was that the Chargers would upset the Ravens, and I feel like he could not have been more far off from that because they got absolutely annihilated by the Ravens. All right, so Connor, your choice. You want the trivia question? You want to make a prediction?
Let's go trivia. I'm not going to get either one right, so I might as well just balance the scales with getting another trivia wrong.
Okay. I think this one you have a chance at. This one's not too bad. All right. So, top 5 running backs and top 5 rushing seasons of all time. We've talked about it before. I think a little bit of that one obscure player in the top 5. Jamal Lewis, I think was his name, played for the Ravens and the Browns. And he had like the 3rd best season of all time. What 2 current running backs still playing in the league have 2 of the top 5 rushing seasons of all time?
So Derrick Henry's one of them.
Yeah.
We talked about it. Two current.
Gonna be honest, if you get this one wrong, you're really gonna be kicking yourself.
Well, I know. And I probably will.
You did get Derrick Henry right.
Henry. Is Dalvin the other one?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I know it's wrong, but
Dalvin is not the other one.
Yeah.
Though a good running back, he has not had one of the top 5 seasons of all time. Believe it or not, Adrian Peterson still plays in the NFL, and he has the third best rushing season of all time. He plays for the Lions, I believe. Let me double check that. Because if he's a free agent, this is embarrassing, and I'm gonna have to give you it. Oh no, he's a free agent.
I knew he didn't play for. He was playing for the Lions.
I thought he was still in the Lions. Oh no!
I was.
Oh, this is a low moment in the first and goal trivia. God, and we hold ourselves to integrity and don't even do our background research. God.
Kyle.
Well, then you got a trivia question right.
2 points. Yeah.
By default. By default. But yeah, so the answer to it, if Adrian Peterson was on an NFL roster, was going to be Derrick Henry and Adrian Peterson, because Adrian Peterson had that year in 2012 where he won MVP. Everybody knows the story there. Damn, you actually got one right. And it was by technicality. That's like the word. Oh my God. I pride myself on.
Yeah, I knew Adrian Peterson didn't play for anyone anymore. He was like kind of middling through with the Lions, and then in the offseason the Lions were like, sorry.
You know, I pride myself on being a thorough person, as there's a deep drive to left and by Castellanos, and that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. All right. That's the show then. Connor got a win. So he's now got one win on each. So you actually did balance it out. All right, that's the show. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you're watching part 2 right now, make sure to go back and watch part 1. You'll see me get really unhappy about the Dallas Cowboys, as I feel like I do every week on this podcast. And we'll also discuss what a man amongst boys Derrick Henry is. If you've already watched part 1, or if you're watching the full episode, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Comment on this video what you'd like to see us talk about next week, or anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like us to talk about going forward. Any suggestions on the show? Subscribe to the Clutch Gene podcast. Put the notification bell on so that where did I go? Subscribe to the Clutch Gene podcast, and drop a like on the video. I don't know if I said that. All right, we'll see you guys next week.